Jerry Rollins not only is a mentor, but he's a father figure to me. And he gave me some great words of advice before I got started. He said, Tony, don't suck. So, but 30 days ago, we got together. I was in San Diego. I have clients down here. And he said, I was so excited because I had finished earlier this year some emotional intelligence trainings. It was 100 days of accountability. And I was telling him how it really helped transform not only my life, but the life of the people on my team, and how connected we are, and how I'm now living a life of purpose. And he said, Tony, emotional intelligence and self-awareness was one of the best things I implemented for myself in business. Once I knew my behavior type, I became extremely profitable in my business, and I started getting a lot of traction. He said, Tony, can you do a talk on it? I said, absolutely. I had nothing prepared at the time, but I was just really excited to pursue my passion, which was public speaking. Our talk is going to be how we were able to transform the team from a dysfunctional team to a dynamic team in 90 days. And the story starts with where I grew up. And for many of you here, successful entrepreneurs, you know that who you see is who you'll be. When you were growing up, the people you saw, your father, your uncle, your aunts, could be family friends that were successful. Maybe they had values and qualities of integrity, of honesty, that really resonated with you, is a direct replication of who you are today because you saw them. That was your destination. That's who you wanted to be. And that became a little bit of who you are now. For me, it was my dad. And my dad was an immigrant from Mexico. He came from nothing. He was actually the main breadwinner of his family of like 10 siblings at the age of 6. He was a jockey. He rode horses. And he had his business really prosper in Northern California in the racetracks of Bay Meadows and Golden Gate. And he had 2 claim to fame. His first claim to fame was that he was an undefeated jockey for 7 years. He won the most races every year for 7 years. His second claim to fame, this was my favorite, is that in one day he was racing six races. So you know when you go to the races in Del Mar, Santa Anita, or Hollywood Park, some horses are 10-1, 21, 30-1. He brought every horse across the finish line 6 out of 6 times. That's him in the articles at Golden Gate Fields. So I think he still holds that record today. I think some jockey had 7 races in one day and won 6 out of them. But he was my hero, right? He was my hero. He was a mini celebrity in that environment. And everyone would always come up to him, and I saw how he did business, and he was honest, ethical, and he was just a world class in what he did. And there was, when I was 15, there was a very pivotal moment in my life that really shaped me. And my hero fell. Superman couldn't fly. He had a massive stroke. He was 51 years old. And he ate right, he was healthy, and the stress of running a business caused him to have this stroke. And that's why I do what I do. I'm in financial services, I'm a financial planner, and I predominantly work with small business owners to protect them from the inevitable that could happen, right? I learned firsthand that without being financially educated and having a proper plan in place, what happened to my family? My mom needed to work 2 jobs, right, to maintain the family. My dad shut down the business for 2 years. And I personally, at this high school that I was working at the high school I was attending, I started mopping floors, cleaning tables to subsidize my tuition. And every client that I talk to says that they don't want to be a burden to their families, right? And that's what I had the opportunity to do. So I got into financial services down in La Jolla, and I started building my personal practice, and at an early age, I got asked to go into management. And I was trying to figure out, how do I create a culture? How do I motivate the people on my sales team to do well? And at that time, and it's very predominant in financial services, the way you manage people is you got to track everything that they do. How many dials did you make? How many reaches did you make on those dials? How many networking events did you go to, right? How many fact binders did you collect, right? That's when you're gathering information. And all this runs through a system and spits out a number, and the higher the number, the better chance you are of surviving in financial services, right? And I resisted that. I hated that. I didn't want anything to do with that. And that's kind of what birthed my way of attracting my team. I said, come to me. I will not micromanage you, but I'm going to motivate you to help you reach your goals by creating these really fun sales trips. So I took people to Tahoe. I took one of my top producers to Bali for hitting his goals. Bali, Indonesia, right? Every month I had these lunches, so I would take them to really nice lunches and just took really good care of them, right? And the feedback that I was getting was that I was running a fraternity. I swear, I was like one sales contest away from having a toga party. I mean, it was like Lord of the Flies, and the parents had gone out, and they were just reckless. Now, they were doing good work, but we were just having a lot of fun in the office. And when I got that feedback, I really took a look at myself. And I remembered who you see is who you'll be. And who are they seeing? They are seeing me. They are seeing the leader. And I said, in order to get to where I want to be, I remember a book that Jerry Rollins gave me. He said, what got you here won't get you there. What got you here won't get you there. We were doing good. We weren't doing great. So I got introduced to some emotional intelligence courses and self-awareness courses. And there was 100 days of accountability. And I got to take a look at my life. And I got to take a look at all areas of my life. I got to take a look at relationships. I got to take a look at business. I got to take a look at my health, how I treated my body, right? How I treated my friendships at home, everything. How I viewed money. And I don't know if anyone has ever been in an environment where you can study yourself for 10 hours for 4 days, then take a week off, reflect, and go back to do some additional trainings for 10 hours each day for 4 days. But I really got to take a look at my life. And here were my biggest learnings. My biggest learnings was, number one, I was a victim. I was holding myself as a victim in business and a victim in relationships. What does that mean? I took no responsibility for my emotions, right? I was blaming other people for how I was feeling. That was one of my biggest takeaways. This voice that was in my head, it was all victim talk. There was constant thoughts of being a victim over and over and over again. The second thing that I looked is sabotage, patterns of sabotage that were showing up in my life. And I had this limiting belief. This limiting belief told me that I had to suffer in order to reach prosperity, to reach success. Now, we hear these stories when we're starting a business. You got to go through the grind, right? You got to grind it out your first 2 years of running a business. And I got enrolled in this story and believed it when I didn't have to. I remember, and some of you can relate to this, that in my first 2 years as I was growing a business, didn't have that much cash flow. Again, I started right out of college. I remember my second year, I chewed out of the right side of my mouth for a year because I had a toothache and I was too scared to go to the dentist and have them check it out, and I was afraid of the bill, right? I didn't have to do that much suffering. I could have called a friend and asked for help, but I had this limiting belief, and it wasn't until then that I let everything go, and I said, you know what? I am having so much fun, and I really like what I'm doing. I don't care if I go bankrupt, that everything started to shift for me, right? Things started going well for me in those first 2 years. So I looked at those patterns of sabotage that was going on over and over again. It was a cycle, right? So I got to stop that and take a look at that and change my habit. As you know, a habit is developed over 30 days. When you have 100 days of accountability, you're really able to shift your behavior. The third thing I found is, what do I really want? What makes me happy? And what made me happy was working with my existing team. So at the time, my company has about 170 agencies throughout the United States. And there's about 400 sales managers, people that are in my role. And a sales manager's role, much like a lot of you in this room, is to attract talent, right? Retain them, train them in a process where they're going to be successful, and develop them, right? So attracting people to the company. And in this program, I was one of 20 people. So there's 400 people that they could select. I was one of 20 people on what they called this bench. And in this bench, they were preparing us and grooming us to take over a franchise if one of the CEOs of the 170 agencies were to retire or they didn't make it. And when I got to take a look at what made me happy of working with my existing team of 15 people, and that I wanted a 10 out of 10 relationship with the 15 people, that I didn't want to have an agency of 50, 100 advisors and kind of know them. You know, I called home office, I said, please remove me from the program. And I focused on my team. And the team really appreciated that. The second thing that I was able to take a look at was what made me happy was public speaking. So thank you. Thank you for holding this space for me, because this is where I feel most alive, is public speaking. And the moment that I created space for that, where I removed myself from this program, public speaking events came to me, where they never were showing up before, right? I created this space, and people were coming to me to do some talks. So at these emotional intelligence trainings, you can see this is a client. So I was interested in developing better connections with the people that I worked with. That's Sergio Arriola. He runs a successful business in Southern California. Amanda right there is a team member. This is a jockey that my dad actually used to mentor. That's my mother. So I wanted to take these trainings and get on the same operating system with people in my personal life and people in my professional life. So I started sending people that were on my team to these trainings. And we started shifting. And what we did is we implemented some of the systems that I learned over these 100 days of accountability. And here was the secret sauce. We started getting together over in a huddle and plan our 90 days out. So we didn't do 1 year plans that I used to ask advisors to do that they would do and never look at again until they had to make edits till the following year, right? We did 90-day plans that lined up with our biggest vision, but it was personal and professional life. And in these 90 days, in these huddles, we would get together every Monday at 8:30 and talk about our declarations. What are we declaring we're going to accomplish by Friday to line up with our vision? We're going to have date night with mom, date night with our spouses, meet 5 new clients, right? Whatever lined up with our vision, that was what we were declaring. And we also talked about our celebrations. What are we celebrating that went well last week? But also celebrating our breakdowns. What didn't go well? What did we learn from them that our other advisors in our group can learn from? And on Wednesdays, we jump all of us on a call at 4 p.m. How are we doing on our declarations? And on Friday at noon, we announce where we're at. Now, what did that make me do as a manager? As a manager, I was able to find out who is not on pace to hitting their declaration. Some people were 80%, 50%, 60%, maybe tracking towards getting there. But the people that were having breakdowns, boom, that was my opportunity to show up, coach them, and they were all about the thoughts that were flowing through their heads. That's the only reason they weren't on track, because they had fear of rejection, right? They had thoughts that maybe time conversation, I don't have time to do this. And with my ability to coach them and shift them out of that and help them stay present and stay focused in the moment, they were able to get 100% on their completions. I wasn't doing that before. Before, I would have 30-minute coaching sessions with them once a week, have them set their goals, and off they go. By doing this, I was able to stand side by side with them throughout the week and be involved with their business and their personal life and help them get to their goals. Now, as an industry, we shifted from solo advisors to teams. So this was very big. There was a shift that in order to grow our financial services company, we're looking to forming functional teams. Advisors on teams started earning 72% more than solo advisors. The biggest thing here was retention. Retention in our industry is 15%. The likelihood of someone surviving in 3 years is 15%. If someone's working on a team, that goes up to 37% retention. That's huge for us, right? Now, why is that most important? I tell you all of this for the new generation of employees that are coming in, the Gen Y and then Gen Z. They're being taught in collaboration. When they're being educated in groups. So what we did is we mirrored the way that the new workforce is being taught already in teams. We need to mirror that to create that same ecosystem, right? And in collaborating, we saw already that there's 30% of advisors under the age of 50 are on teams versus 18% of the advisors that are over the age of 50. So we're responding to the workforce. The workforce wants to be working on teams. So a few success stories. I sent a few of our team members there, again, for us to get on the same operating system. This guy's name's Chris Lewis. Chris was what we call a contract minimum producer. He was barely making contract. After going through the trainings, in 60 days, he was a top 5 producer with the most business submitted within 60 days after completing the training. It's all in our head. Limiting beliefs, these roadblocks that are holding us back, preventing us from getting there, right? These conversations of our parents, right? You're not enough, or no, you can't do this, or that's not the right way of doing it, right? The judge and the victim. That's a great story, and I share this with you just because I get excited in helping transform cultures, helping transform teams, and we're having a lot of fun. So that's my talk. Thank you so much.